Hi, Jeff Adams here with Terrasophia, based in Moab, Utah, doing some landscape design, ecological, and watershed restoration. Here to talk to you about a low-tech erosion control project on the property that I live on. And so what we've got going on here is the historic ridge line coming down here. Then we've got the hidden valley drainage. So we've got some flow here, ephemeral channel going in that direction. Then that actually comes off of these cliffs up here as well. But so what happened with this hillside here is that some 30 or so years ago, a couple of pads were bulldozed into the hillside to make way for building lots. And so what that left was these eroding hill slopes that after 30 years really had not done much at all in the way of growing anything. And so this is the smaller end of that hill slope that was cut away. You can kind of see the ridge line coming across here, and it's essentially just eroding. You can't see much growing on it. It's sloughing in places, and all that water just sheets off, taking sediment with it, and just little bit of vegetation able to grow just right at the toe of the slope where all of that deposition of water and sediment occurs. And so we started to terrace it. We thought, hey, we'll layer this. We'll do these things that we've come to call brush mineral structures. Now even thinking of them as like upland beaver dams. We're essentially weaving whatever organic matter we have, limbs, weeds, tumbleweeds, brush clippings, and we're weaving them in, and then we're coating them and packing them over with mineral earth to essentially create some terraces. And in this case, you can see the start of, we've got this lower terrace here, and then the start of a second terrace, and then we've still got all of this eroding slope up here. And even in this picture, you can see we're already starting, since we've flattened the slope a little bit, more water is able to stay on here. We've gotten some Rocky Mountain bee plant, we got a little New Mexico privet growing, and then a couple other things popping up. So just by applying organic matter, laying it with mineral earth, we do water it a little bit to help get that decomposition and germination going, and then we're starting to get some vegetative response pretty quickly. That next winter, we did another experiment, in this case of seeing what if we use dormant cuttings of 3-leaf sumac and use that as our base material, and then cuttings of the seed heads of blanket flower and Indian rice grass, and use all that living material to be the base of our structure, and then layer that, essentially plant it with mineral earth. We use a little wood chips, throw that in there so that it can start to grow, add some more layers, brought it right up in line with the rocks. And then here's again that before picture after we had just started to rough in the first terrace. We've still got lots of eroding hillside. And then this is probably 3 years later from the bottom terrace, and a year and a half from these top terraces, we've got all sorts of growth, 3-leaf sumacs. And then we look up close again, and we can see that what once was the eroding hillside, which was, so from the base of these rocks, it essentially dropped down like that, just sloughing everything off. We were able to build terrace 1, terrace 2, terrace 3, and that tied right into this rock armoring and vegetation that we had on that side. And we were able to get the 3-leaf sumac, the dormant cuttings, sprouted, rooted, or growing. We've got sunflowers, all that blanket flower and Indian rice grass that we use the seed from to build this terrace is now growing a seed crop and biomass crop of its own that we can use for the next terrace.
Jeff, this is phenomenal. I love what you've done on this site. I love that you've brought in so much life to a site that is looks like it's actually quite a loose soil. So just doing a terrace by itself would probably not be stable and probably, have transitional slumpage. So instead, you've basically created a vegetative rebar structure, if you will, to take the conventional conversation from construction mindset to this, and then use that as the base for these terraces. And the recruitment is in such a short amount of time. Like you said, those top terraces were about a year and a half for the after photo.
Yeah, that was the second growing season. So they were done in this upper two terraces were done in January of 2020, and then they had the 2020 and 2021 growing seasons. And yeah, they've done great. I mean, the amount of seed that went in there, and just the water holding capacity. So that's an instance where, like, that type of terrace, it's really only receiving direct rainfall and then supplemental irrigation. There's not a big roof or anything contributing to that particular structure, which made it a little more important to provide supplemental water through the drip irrigation to at least get things established. Here in Moab, Utah, 9 inches of average precipitation. It takes a little bit of supplemental to get things going.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much for sharing this today. And so much of these case studies, they get me so excited for this type of work and just what's possible. And so, thank you so much for the work you're doing. Thanks so much for being open to sharing it. And for everybody else, we'll be running a course called Low Tech Erosion Control coming up in the new year, all about these types of structures. And both Jeffrey Adams and Neil Bertranda will be teaching and guiding people on how to learn how to assess a site, understand a site, how to choose an appropriate technique, and then how to monitor throughout the year. So if you're interested in that, check out, and we'll see you in the next video.